This is going to sound crazy to a lot of people, but Canada invests a larger share of its GDP into housing than any other G7 country. At the same time, we invest the second smallest share into intellectual property and innovation. That means more of our national wealth is tied up in homes than actually creating new ideas, products, or industries. It isn't just a small difference, it's a major imbalance that shapes our whole economy. The shift really accelerated after the 2008 global financial crisis, right? Canada really kind of escaped totally undamaged by the whole thing. The Bank of Canada dropped interest rates close to zero and kept them there for years. Cheap borrowing made real estate extremely attractive. You could get a huge mortgage with very low payments, and instead of putting money into businesses, technology, or research, it brought people to houses, right? Somewhere to live, or everyone needs a place to live. Of course, condos. But it wasn't just for people looking for a place to live. It was investors, flippers, speculators, multi-property owners. And the interesting part is politicians also jumped in. A large percentage of MPs invested in real estate during the housing boom. Now, when the people in charge also profit from rising house prices, there's little incentive to change the system or the status quo. Now, this real estate obsession crowds out other investments in other parts of the Canadian economy. In the US, for example, capital flows into startups, innovation hubs, new tech companies. And it's so obvious that Americans are more likely to just start businesses than Canadians. Canadians are very almost afraid of starting a new business or a little startup or trying this idea. As Canadians will just buy property. That's what we do. We don't start new technology companies in Canada. We just buy real estate. And all that money in Canada got tied up in bidding wars and resale homes. Pretty much what that meant was less funding for entrepreneurs, less innovation, slower productivity growth. That's why we're in the situation right now where we have the worst GDPs per capita or very stagnant GDP per capita. What's the result we've gotten from all this? An economy that's risk averse and dependent on property values. That's where we are right now. Now, we've seen what happens when countries rely too heavily on real estate. We just can clearly look at the Japanese and what happened in the Japan 90s crash. Also, China's developer crash, the US in 2008. These are all examples of when real estate gets too bubbly, okay? Bubbles eventually pop or deflate. These things happen. As much as other realtors are out there saying, no, prices could go back up. Housing could go down for a long time. And I don't know how many other realtors are saying this, but I'm one of them. And the aftermath can be decades of slow growth and recovery. Some argue we have a supply problem, but there's also evidence that speculative demand fueled by cheap money and tax advantages was the huge driver of all this. The principal residence capital gains exemption makes home ownership incredibly tax advantaged compared to other investments, right? If you could buy your own home for $500,000 and it goes up to $1.5 million and sell it, that's all tax-free profit for you, especially if it's your primary residence. That's also why you've probably heard people say real estate has been the safest bet or is the safest bet because the policies in Canada have shaped it to be that way. And so the downside of that is it pulls money, talent, energy away from building industries that'll help build our productivity in the country. These things that'll actually expand the economy, right? Think about it. We don't really have any industries in Canada outside real estate and banking, maybe construction, which is tied into real estate. There's not a lot of other big industries in Canada, and you can look this up yourself. We do have incredibly smart people in Canada, no doubt. Top researchers for even AI are coming from Toronto, Montreal. They actually left for Silicon Valley because they couldn't get the same funding and support here. I mean, of course they couldn't. It's no surprise. That's an opportunity cost that we often don't talk about. And it's not just about tech, right? We're seeing this in manufacturing, green energy. All these things need capital, they need money, they need funding. Instead, we put our chips on the housing market and hope it never turns against us until possibly right now, where it seems to be turning against us and continuing to do so as the economic reports get released. What do I personally think about all this? Well, we've built an economy where buying property isn't just an option. It's like the default thing. You have to buy real estate in this. It's the only way to build wealth in Canada. Think about it. Housing isn't a productive asset in the same way that a business or innovation is, where you can hire people and expand and do all that stuff. You can't export a Toronto condo or patent a Vancouver townhouse or, a low-rise building. If we keep tying up our money in real estate and ignoring other sectors, we'll get exactly what we're heading into: high house prices, low innovation, and a slow, fragile economy. And if we want a future where Canada competes globally, we need to break the cycle and start rewarding investments that create more than just paper wealth, right? Which is what real estate is. Let me know what you guys think about this topic.